Hey everybody, welcome back to Touring History, where we prove that June 17th might be the most accidental dramatic date on the calendar. I'm Lane.
And I'm Accidental Dave. And before we dive
You are the youngest, aren't you?
That's true. What? Oh, that's what I kept hearing. What'd you say when they told you? What? And before we dive into today's collection of military disasters, constitutional crises, and the most famous car chase in television history, let's thank Randy's Donuts for keeping us caffeinated and doughy through all this chaos.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Randy's has been a Los Angeles trademark, landmark, both.
Yeah,
right?
both. Yeah.
Since
A
1952,
donut's
which
a
means
trademark.
that means that giant donut sign has witnessed everything we're about to discuss, from Cold War tensions to the OJ chase, probably while serving donuts to people who had no idea they were living through history.
Wow, can you imagine what that must have looked like? Hey, what's with all the cops chasing that white car? I don't know. When you're processing the fact that the same day gave us both the Battle of Bunker Hill in Boston, Massachusetts, and a white Ford Bronco driving slowly down the freeway. I don't know if it's that slow. You need the stability of knowing that some things endure. Yeah, they do. Caught that one, huh? Like excellent donuts and questionable historical timing and false teeth that aren't gripped.
Speaking of questionable timing,
Yes.
it's June 17th, which means we have tennis legends, hip hop poets, and oh God, we're doing Watergate and the OJ chase, aren't we?
Well, of
Okay.
course. They're like ham and eggs. They go together perfectly. Peanut butter and jelly. OJ and Watergate. You're absolutely doing both because apparently June 17th specializes in events to June 17th.
Yeah, absolutely. They're falling out, Dave.
That's right. Where's my denture grip? Oh, man. It makes you question everything you thought you knew about American institutions. But first, that's right.
Oh, birthdays.
Now, we
Venus
can't sing the
Williams.
song, ladies and gentlemen, or we'll have to pay. Yeah, we're going to have to pay a residual to that family that makes a fortune off it. Anyway, Lane, go ahead with birthdays.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay.
Venus Williams turns 45 today, which
What?
feels, I know, it feels impossible because she's been dominating tennis for what feels like 847 years.
I wouldn't tell her that. But anyway,
But
go ahead.
also, she started so young that 45 actually makes sense mathematically. We've checked it out. We fact-checked that.
So, in tennis player years, that's actually 7. Also celebrating, Kendrick Lamar at 38, Barry Manilow at 82, Jodie Whittaker at 42, and Joe Piscopo at 74. So we've got, he's 74? Wow. So we've got tennis royalty, lyrical genius, the king of soft rock, the first female Doctor Who, and, well, Joe Piscopo. But he's important too.
Absolutely. You know what's fascinating? Kendrick Lamar and Barry Manilow both make music that gets stuck in your head for completely different reasons. One writes complex social commentary, the other wrote Copacabana. And both are legitimately brilliant at their craft, I guess.
A little known fact, Barry Manilow.
Are you a Fanilow, Dave? Are you
Fanilow? I was going to say, a little known fact about the old bear is that he did jingles first. Yeah. He wrote for McDonald's, like, grab a bucket and mop, da-da-da-da-da-da. I wonder why they put that in an advertisement about food. Weird.
That's a good question. Yeah. But he also wrote Highway to the Danger Zone, the Top Gun theme song.
That's right.
So
that's right.
That's pretty.
All the things exciting that Barry did that, nobody really knows about and probably nobody cares. And Venus Williams has been playing professional tennis since before Kendrick Lamar was famous, which really puts the longevity of athletic careers in perspective. She's basically the Barry Manilow of tennis, huh? Enduring excellence that spans generations.
That's a great metaphor or simile, Dave. I always get them mixed up, but I let's put Kendrick Lamar and Venus Williams and Barry Manilow all in the same bucket.
Thesaurus.
Thesaurus. Meanwhile, Jodie Whittaker broke gender barriers as the Doctor. and Joe Piscopo existed during the 1980s.
Yeah.
Sometimes birthday lists are just like that. Speaking of breaking barriers, Dave, let's talk about expensive military victories, shall we?
Oh, well, all right.
I'll tee myself up for that one.
Yes, Bunker
Going to
Hill.
That's right. I knew you were gonna. You
Yeah,
knew,
yeah.
Mr. History Man. June 17th, 1775, the Battle of Bunker Hill. It started after people had a Randy's donut.
Well,
No, I'm kidding. They haven't been around that long. No.
well,
The
well.
Battle of Bunkle the Bunkle
Bunkle
the
Hill.
battle
I know what
the
that is. It's
battle
next
of
to Bunker Hill.
the
They had a
Battle
really
of Bunker Hill.
small fight there. Hey, we're
It
finished
was
with Bunker Hill. I think they're still coming at us. Let's go over to Bunker Hill.
that was just a amuse bouche for the
Amuse-
Bunker Hill.
amuse-
When that was where the British technically won, but lost so many officers that it was basically a disaster disguised as a victory.
That's right. It's like, hey, we did it. Oh, God, look at that mess. Run away. This is where your obsession with military Pyrrhic victories really kicks in, doesn't it?
Well, look, the British lost over 1,000 soldiers, including 226 dead, to take a hill that the Americans had evacuated anyway. British General Clinton, British Clinton.
Well,
I,
I did
feel your
not have
American.
sex
I
with
feel your
that
American
redcoat.
pain. British General Clinton supposedly said a few more such victories would have shortly put an end to British dominion in America.
Oh, I think his wife was named Hillary, too. Hillary, I'm going to the bunker. It's 18th century equivalent of, we had to destroy the village in order to save it, damn it. The British proved they could win battles against nobody. I mean, colonial militias, but at a cost that made winning the war impossible. That's when the rabble, as the British called us, knew they had a chance. Look at this. Look what we did, and all we had to do was go back to the farm.
That's right. And this is actually where we get the "don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes" quote, which is either brilliant tactical advice or the most American thing anyone has ever said in combat.
That's right. Don't fire until you see their sunglasses. They haven't been invented yet, General. Probably both. Americans have always been good at turning military necessity into memorable quotes.
Yeah. Any memorable quotes from 1835, Dave? Maybe on a
Uh,
billboard or something?
I don't know if there were billboards back then, but I'm sure there were some memorable quotes. I can't think of any. Guess they weren't that memorable. Okay, moving on. All right. 1835, shall we? Jared Bell
Yeah.
prints the first large format U.S. billboard ad. Oh, I get the reference. a little slow on the uptake there.
I was reading ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I know. Basically, you sly fox, you. You'd be good at Bunker Hill. Basically, inventing the concept of you can't escape advertising. No way.
That's true. This is where outdoor advertising really takes off. Before this, advertisements were small newspaper notices. Bell had figured out that if you make the ad big enough, like a giant donut on a donut shop,
Brilliant.
people have to see it whether they want to or not.
Yes, after that, every place had a giant shoe or a giant eye or a giant pickle. It was just, hey, look what I've got. You can't read, but you know what I'm selling. It's brilliant and slightly evil at the same time. What if we made advertising impossible to ignore? Ha! It's the typical American story. And now we live in a world where every surface is a potential advertisement. Why, I just went to the bathroom of my own house and there was something there.
Yeah, and to be fair, some billboards have become actual landmarks themselves, like Randy's giant donut sign. That's advertising that has transcended into art.
Oh, it's iconic, Lane. And it makes you hungry every time you drive by it.
It sure does.
Yeah.
I'm hungry, and I'm going to have 4 more in the second half of this episode, Dave.
Donuts. 1885, the disassembled Statue of Liberty, that was a mess, arrives in New York Harbor in 214 crates. They forgot the 216th, but, that was just her finger. Because apparently international gift giving in the 1880s was complicated.
It reminds me of a story,
Oh
Dave.
boy, which relative is it today, Lane?
Well, it's my great great grandmother.
Oh, hello,
Uh,
Lane. Here
yeah.
I am.
Oh, it's so good to see you, Grammy.
That's right.
Uh, Supposedly, you watched them unload those crates and said, the French sure have a funny way of wrapping presents.
Well, that's not exactly what I said, but it involved a couple of sharp words that I can't say on this podcast. I love that it arrived like the world's most important IKEA furniture. Well, you put part A to part B, and you need a Fetzer valve to take. Oh, jeez, we'll get to it tomorrow. Some assembly required was an understatement. May take several years. Please have proper foundation ready.
What gets me is that France finished the statue in 1884, but America wasn't ready for it until 1886. So Lady Liberty spent almost 2 years in storage waiting for us to get our act together, which by today's standards, I think it would take 10 years today, not two.
Yeah,
So it's not like we're getting faster.
I can hear them over there in Paris. Are you ready yet? We have been
Why
waiting.
have you not why have you not shown our present to your people?
Are you trying to send us a message? What, you don't like women in capes? Green women? Is that what you're trying to say? Green women with crowns holding something? Yes?
One day,
Ah,
one
we got
day,
it.
one day you will have a captain.
Yes,
One day you will have a captain that will lead you into accepting the liberty of green women, and it might happen in space, and the captain will be named Kirk.
that's right. And he will have pointy hair, pointy-eared friends. Yes. Okay, we digress. Very American. Thanks for the gift of freedom. Just give us a minute to figure out where to put the damn thing.
That's right. Also American, 1928, Amelia Earhart becomes the first woman to fly solo across the
Well,
Atlantic.
well, well.
Well, actually, she was a passenger on this flight, but
Oh.
she became the first woman to cross the Atlantic by air.
Right. Her actual solo transatlantic flight was in 1932. But this 1928 flight made her famous and basically launched her career as America's aviation hero. But then, of course, she lost her luggage.
It was a great warm up for her
That's right.
solo flight.
Mhm.
What's remarkable is that this was only 25 years after the Wright brothers' first flight. The leap from humans can fly for 12 seconds to let's cross an ocean. That kind of happened incredibly
It
fast.
did. I mean, when you think about it, they thought that was the devil's work back when Wright brothers were doing it, and now all of a sudden a woman's crossing the Atlantic on her own? My goodness, what's the world coming to? Although, to be fair, crossing the Atlantic in 1928 was still basically a suicide mission that sometimes worked out. Earhart knew the risks and did it anyway. That's heroic.
It is heroic. Let's move on to 1930 and a tariff act that we're all very familiar with now these days.
That's right. Ooh, it's called the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, and it gets signed in 1930, triggering global trade retaliation. Huh. Nobody learned their lesson. And making the Great Depression worse. Uh-oh, foreshadowing. Because apparently economic isolationism during a global crisis, hey, seemed like a good idea. Let's do it again.
This is one of those laws that sounds boring, but absolutely destroyed the global economy. Countries started retaliating with their own tariffs, international trade collapsed, and everyone got poorer.
That's right. Well, if you're going to do it, I am too. So there. Mhm. Yeah, it's like the 1930s version of a trade war, except it actually worked at making everything worse for everyone involved.
The lesson here is that when the global economy is already fragile, maybe don't start fights with all your trading partners simultaneously. But apparently, every generation has to learn this lesson the hard way.
Oh dear. Doesn't sound good.
No.
1940, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania fall under Soviet occupation, which would last for 50 years next and basically erase countries from most people's mental maps. They are no longer there. Go away.
Yeah. What's heartbreaking about this is that these were independent democracies that got caught between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union. Stalin and Hitler literally divided up Eastern Europe like they were splitting a pizza.
Okay. You get the mushroom. That's Estonia. I'm getting the onion. That's
Which country had the pineapple that nobody wanted?
oh, that's right. That had to be Romania. Anyway, most Americans probably couldn't find these countries on a map in 1940, which I think made it easier to ignore what was happening to them.
Although they did eventually get their independence back in 1991, which proves that sometimes if you wait long enough and the empire collapses, you can get your country back.
Now, what do we do with it? 1944. Iceland declares independence and becomes a republic. Finally breaking free from Denmark. Ha, those Danes, after 600 years of various forms of colonial rule. And the Danes are like, yeah, you can take it. There's nothing there.
Although this was probably the most polite independence declaration in history. Iceland was like, Denmark, we love you, but we're going to be our own country now.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And Denmark was basically like, oh, sure. We're kind of busy being occupied by Nazis anyway. Sometimes timing is everything in international relations.
Yes. Moving down the timeline to 1963, the Supreme Court rules in Abington versus Shemp
Shemp?
that school led Bible readings violate the First Amendment. And conservative America basically lost its mind.
What? No. This is one of those decisions that seems obvious now, but was incredibly controversial at the time. Public schools funded by taxpayers of all religions probably shouldn't promote one specific religion over another.
Oh, that's radical,
It
Dave. How
is.
could you say such a thing?
Right.
Although the backlash was immediate and eternal, we're still arguing about this 60 years later, which says something about how slowly institutional change actually
Yes,
happens.
there was actually a Supreme Court ruling just the other day that shot down another version of that. But 1970, we digress. North Vietnamese forces out Cambodia's last railway line. I didn't even know they had one, basically isolating the country from external supply routes. This was part of the broader Vietnam War spillover that devastated Cambodia, a country that was never in the war initially.
Yeah, what's tragic about this is that Cambodia kept getting pulled into a war that wasn't really theirs. The railway line represented connection to the outside world, and losing it meant deeper isolation and suffering.
Yeah, it's one of those military actions that sounds minor but had huge humanitarian consequences. Sometimes infrastructure is everything. Just ask about that bridge in Delaware that ship hit.
Yes. Moving on to 1972. We know where we're going now.
Oh,
Every time I hear 1972, I know it's Watergate.
that's right.
Watergate.
I think of plumbers every time I hear 72.
I know. The Watergate burglary arrests begin, launching the scandal that would eventually bring down a presidency. 5 men caught breaking into Democratic National Committee headquarters.
Yes, it was the gang that couldn't shoot straight at it again. And at the time, this seemed like a random crime story. Nobody imagined it would lead to the President of the United States is a crook and resignation 2 years later.
Yeah, what's fascinating about this was probably the most expensive burglary in American history, not because of what they stole, but because of what it cost Nixon and the Republican Party.
It's the political equivalent of the cover up is worse than the crime, except in this case, both the crime and the cover up were pretty terrible, and the old saying, follow the money, really came through.
That's right. I'm getting hungry, Dave. Are
Me
you?
too. Let's have a break and get some donuts.
Yeah, it's time for an intermission
Ugh,
brought to you by
you're low on
those
blood
who
sugar,
make.
pal.
I know. Reboot. Here's an intermission
Elon.
moment brought to you by those who make the invisible visible.
Ooh.
Cheers. And speaking of making things visible, Randy's Donuts has been impossible to miss since 1952.
That's for sure. That big donut up there, you know what I love about it? It's Randy's approach to advertising. They built a 32-foot donut sign and basically said, hey, there, we're done with marketing. Come on, come and get it. No focus groups, no market research, just giant donut equals giant donut shop. Get it?
It's right. It's the opposite of modern advertising complexity. Instead of targeting demographics and optimizing conversion rates, They just made something so iconic that it became part of Los Angeles culture.
Yeah, I could hear it back then. Randy, ugh, this is a total waste of money. It'll never work. Plus, it's so heavy. And it worked. That sign has appeared in more movies than most actors, survived multiple recessions, and now they have locations in Vegas, South Korea. I mean, they want to go to the moon. Sometimes the simplest ideas are the most enduring. Check them out at randysdonuts.com. Now, back to more historical chaos.
Yeah, Dave, take us to
All
1972
right,
and not
1972.
without talking about
No
Watergate.
way! The Nelson River HVDC system. What the heck is that? The Nelson River HVDC system begins delivering high voltage power, which later promoted as an engineering marvel. Because I've never heard of it. Basically, Canada figured out how to send electricity across enormous distances without losing most of it. That is extraordinary.
It's really cool. This is one of those infrastructure achievements that nobody talks about, but changed everything.
Everything.
High voltage, direct current transmission made it possible to generate power in remote areas and send it to cities hundreds of miles away.
Oh my God, I'm getting tingles just thinking about it, Lane. It's the electrical equivalent of the interstate highway system. Boring, but revolutionary. Although I bet the advertising for high voltage power transmission was challenging. No giant donuts there.
Come, yeah, come see our electricity move really efficiently across long distances. Not exactly a tourist attraction, but genuinely impressive engineering.
I can hear them in the ad room. That's fantastic! Oh my God, we'll put up lightning bolts and people will love it! Nah. Okay, let's go to 1994, Lane.
Oh, well, 1994 makes me think of O.J.
That's
Simpson.
right.
He gets arrested after the televised freeway chase that 95 million Americans watched live.
95
Take
million.
take that, Twitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be the most surreal moment in television history.
And where did that Bronco go by on the 10? That's right. Or was it the 405? It was the 405.
405.
Flew right by Randy's
Randy's
Donuts.
Donuts. That's
This is
right.
where your fascination with media spectacle really takes over, isn't it?
Look, this was supposed to be a routine arrest, but instead it became performance art. A white Ford Bronco driving 35 miles per hour on the freeway, while every news helicopter in Southern California followed it.
Um, yeah, it was riveting, and everyone stopped what they were doing to watch. Restaurants put the chase on their TVs. People pulled over on other freeways to watch the helicopters. Entire offices gathered around television sets. Cats were sleeping with dogs.
It was like the entire country collectively decided that watching a slow speed chase was more important than whatever else we were supposed to be doing that day.
Yeah, well, in retrospect, this was probably the moment when news as entertainment officially took over American media. Everything
That's
after
true.
this had to compete with the OJ chase for drama.
Well, the courtroom drama was big. I'm sure we'll be covering that in future days of history, Dave.
Bad boys, what you gonna do?
Let's go to 2015,
Yeah.
shall we?
Oh,
The Emmanuel AME Church shooting in
mm,
Charleston is what I'm talking about.
sad.
And that killed 9 people during a Bible study.
Ugh.
And this is one of those events where we need to be respectful rather than analytical.
Yeah, just a tragedy. This was domestic terrorism motivated by racial hatred, targeting people who were literally studying scripture and welcoming a stranger into their church. Oh, it doesn't get any worse than this. It's important to remember both the victims and the community response, however.
Yeah, what followed was remarkable. The families of the victims offered forgiveness, the community came together, and Charleston showed what healing could look like even after unimaginable tragedy.
Even the president sang Amazing Grace at the service. Sometimes the most powerful response to hatred is grace, which is what Emmanuel AME Church demonstrated to the entire country.
So that is June 17th. Pyrrhic victories, disassembled statues, constitutional crises, and the collision between tragedy and media spectacle.
And donuts! If there's a theme here, it's that some victories cost too much. Some institutions take forever to assemble properly, and some moments become bigger than anyone expected them to be.
Thanks again to Randy's Donuts for sponsoring today's episode.
Thanks, Randy!
When the world is full of expensive military victories and slow speed chases, at least we have that giant donut sign as a constant reminder that some things are exactly what they appear to be.
That's right. It's such a wonderful, warm feeling. Visit randysdonuts.com and remember, history is full of unexpected consequences and unintended spectacles, like this show. Sometimes the side effects are more important than the original event.
That's right. I'm Side Effect
And
Lane,
I'm Side Effect too, and we'll see you both time on Touring History.
where we prove that June 17th specializes in events that seemed routine until they changed everything,
That's right,
allegedly.
allegedly. So see you next time on
Touring History.
History.